Yo, welcome back, everybody, to the Orange Bloods Texas Football Channel. I'm Geoff Ketchum, joined by Jason Suchomel of OrangeBloods.com. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all those things that we typically ask on a video-by-video basis. We're joining you right now because the Longhorns have picked up a big defensive line commitment. Justice Finkley, out of the state of Alabama, a guy that Nick Saban coveted, still covets, commits to the Longhorns today. And Jason, it's, we use the word, it's a big commitment, I think pretty loosely sometimes. This is a top 5 guy in the state of Alabama and a guy that probably right upon his commitment ranks as one of the top 4 or 5 guys in this class.
Yeah, I think, he's just outside the Rivals 100, which that in itself tells you what kind of player he is. Rivals 250 member, ranked number 119 nationally. And I think if you were to ask the Texas coaches, they would probably tell you he's a guy that they've had near the top of their wish list for a long time. And he's a tremendous player. A lot of people didn't think Texas had much of a shot just because he's from Alabama. And like you said, Nick Saban in Alabama wanted him. They don't lose many battles. I don't care if they're recruiting a kid in California or Texas. Nick Saban doesn't lose many. So to lose a kid from the state of Alabama, for Texas to go in there and win this battle head-to-head with Alabama, and Colorado as a finalist as well. Pretty impressive job by the Texas staff. I've talked to Justice Finkley on a handful of occasions. He mentioned his relationship with Pete Kwiatkowski. He's mentioned Coach Sarkisian and the job that not only Sark did with Justice himself, also with his parents. Did a good job of recruiting the whole family. They're a real tight-knit family, very big on academics. That was a big thing that put Texas over the top in this one ahead of Alabama. He's a guy who wants to major in pre-med. Both of his parents are educators. He always said, Ketch, if he followed the tea leaves going back several months, Justice always said, hey, I'm different. I'm going to do maybe what's off the beaten path a little bit. Well, he did it today by picking Texas over the in-state Alabama Crimson Tide.
He's so impressive on film from a physicality standpoint. Great athlete, really powerful hands. But to see, I think the knock against him would be he's a little bit of a physical tweener at 6'2", 265. But my goodness, that dude is powerful.
Yeah, I watched his huddle film today, and like the first clip, he's double teamed, which he pretty much is always double teamed, but he does a good job of getting low and just, explodes through 2 guys to get back into the backfield. His coach, we'll have some comments from his coach tonight in our war room on orangebloods.com describing what kind of player he is. He said, hey, he gets double and triple teamed pretty much every play. That's nothing new, but he's so physical at point of attack. He's strong. He's college ready. He's not the biggest guy. His coach, I thought, made an interesting comparison, compared him to Dwight Freeney. I was like, I didn't really think of that. But I was like, that kind of makes sense when you think of, like you said, a guy who's maybe a bit undersized. He's not a jumbo defensive lineman or defensive end by any measures. Rivals actually has him listed as a defensive tackle. He can do some of that. You see him on film. He lines up straight up against at nose against the center, but he's also athletic enough. He can line up on the edge. So really good player, good versatility, real strong. Brings the whole package. Really good pickup again for Texas.
It's funny, the guy that I compared him to in my incident analysis piece over on Orange Bloods was Lamar Houston. When Lamar came out of high school at 6'2", 256, I think is what he was listed in the Rivals database. And he was also a guy, Houston was super versatile, but you could see them move him all around the defensive line. And that's really a strength for Finkley. Like you mentioned, they'll line him up as a nose tackle on one play. And then on the very next play, he's lined out outside wide as a defensive end. For me, if he was on the roster right now, I think I'd almost like him above a guy like Jacoby Jones right now. Physically, they're not too dissimilar, but there's so much power and I think just natural athleticism in Finkley. If he were a little bit bigger, I think we'd be talking about a national top 50 kind of guy.
Yeah, no question. And, he's got the versatility. He could play on your edge and drop back and do some of those things, even drop back into coverage. He's athletic enough to do some of that stuff. And a lot of the Texas defensive linemen, I find it interesting. They're up to now 7 commitments, defensive line / edge players that play kind of the hybrid linebacker defensive line role. A lot of versatility among a lot of these guys. Most guys don't want to hear you're a defensive tackle. You're a defensive tackle, but pretty much all of them. Zach Swanson, Aaron Bryant. They're all kind of like, hey, Texas is telling these guys, you're a swing guy. We can move up and down the line. We can do a lot of different things for you. That's also a calling card for Pete Kwiatkowski's defense. So it makes sense as to why it's such a strong selling point for these guys. But, Justice Finkley, he's right up there, I think, with any defensive player Texas has committed in this class.
If Texas was dating women, we would say they have a type, because as they continue to accumulate defensive linemen in this class, like you mentioned, that 7, the physical profile, you can see what Texas is looking for, because they've been accumulating a lot of guys with the exact, maybe not the exact same similar athletic profile.
Different body styles, but they play similarly.
Yeah, and not too dissimilar from body styles. I mean, the height and stuff, but they all have that kind of strong side defensive end, kind of that quintessential frame that isn't pure defensive tackle, but isn't a tweener defensive end either.
Well, it's kind of the new age of football. I mean, it's kind of a trickle-down effect. The days of having 250-pound middle linebackers are over. I think in Kwiatkowski's scheme, he doesn't need necessarily the 320-pound nose tackle that's going to plug up space. He wants athletes at every position on the field, including up and down his defensive line, that can be versatile, that can get to the passer, still hold up against the run, of course, drop back, do some exotic things with them. So, you're right. They are certainly looking for a type. And I would say versatility is probably a key component. Got to be a good player, of course. But Finkley does bring that in spades, certainly.
Jason, any concerns about the fact that there's still time till signing day? He's in the state of Alabama. And I know that the response from a lot of Alabama people was, okay, let's see if we can get him on campus for an unofficial visit. Let's see if we can get him maybe on campus for an official visit, and then see where the chips lay in December. Any concern at all? He doesn't seem like a wishy-washy kid, but you'd love that kid to be in state right now instead of in their backyard.
Yeah, you'd rather have him at Austin Westlake. I don't think get him a transfer, but obviously it's a concern. Anytime you have an out-of-state commitment, it's a concern. You've got to continue to recruit them aggressively. You mentioned it. He did take his Colorado official visit. He took his Texas official visit. He hasn't visited Alabama on an official visit. So something to look out for. Could that happen? We'll see. I'll have to talk to Justice and kind of get his thoughts on that hopefully tonight. But I think you nailed it, Ketch. He's not a wishy-washy kid. His family is not a wishy-washy family at all. They've put a lot of thought in this, a lot of time. Again, he's highly educated. His parents are highly educated. They're educators. They're not the type, I don't think, that's going to make fleeting decisions and then go back and forth on it. Now, hey, the lure of Alabama is not going to go away. So, if he was playing in Arizona, and yet Arizona and Arizona State recruiting, and you probably think, I don't think that's really worth worrying about. But the fact is, hey, we're talking about Alabama. We're talking about Nick Saban. But, if I'm picking Justice Finkley or Jamon Tapp, the defensive lineman out of Louisiana who committed about a week ago, as who's going to waiver first, I'm probably picking Jamon Tapp. I think Justice Finkley is more solid than people probably will realize. But again, we're talking about Alabama for an in-state prospect, so don't rule anything out. But I think Justice Finkley probably put a lot of thought into this decision and probably feels pretty good about his choice.
Jason, last question, and then we'll wrap this thing up. If I ask you who your top 3 commits in this class are at this point, the best 3 commitments, who would you choose?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would still go with Malik Murphy. I still think Malik gets overlooked. He's a quarterback and he's, national top 100 guy, but everybody says, okay, but he's not whoever, Quinn Ewers or whatever. So, but I still think Malik's a tremendous talent. I would probably I think I'd put Jamarian Miller in that group, the running back. Outside of that, I love Jure Bledsoe. I love him from a talent perspective. He'd probably be my 3rd pick, but Jure comes with a little bit of a red flag in terms of his academics. And, he mentioned to me when he committed, hey, he may still take some visits. So, there are some hurdles that need to be crossed with Jure Bledsoe. But if we're talking pound for pound talent, I'd put him up there probably 3rd. I'm not sure Finkley wouldn't be kind of on the fringe of that list as well, though.
I think I would go Malik Murphy 1. For me, he's by far and away the best prospect in this class. I think I'd go Jamon Tapp and Finkley as 2 and 3. And the only reason why I kind of bring that up is it really it nails home the point of how important out-of-state recruiting has turned out to be for this class. Jamarian Miller, a really good commitment. Same thing with Jure Bledsoe. But the out-of-state success that they've had and may prove to be the most important quality of this entire recruiting class when it's all said and done. But look, lots of stuff that we can get into with regards to ranking the commitments in this class. Put in the comments section your 1, 2, and 3 for this Texas recruiting class. Again, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We just put out the Orange Bloods modcast, as a matter of fact. So if you haven't checked that video out, we've got the full breakdown of the Louisiana game and a look ahead to Arkansas this weekend. For myself and Jason Suchomel, though, you guys take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Later.